Here.
מקיבוץ בארי. הדבר הכי גרוע, חוץ מלשמוע את כל השמות של
Except for hearing the names of all the dead and the missing
והשבויים,
and the captives.
הדבר הכי גרוע במיידי לא היה
The next
לשכב
worst thing
בחושך בממ"ד.
wasn't having to lie down in
זה לא היה
silence in the
לשמוע את
safe room.
היריות, זה לא היה אפילו
It wasn't the
בזמן
shootings. It
אמיתי
wasn't to
לקבל
receive
התראות
emergency in real
מחברי
time from members in my
שמות
kibbutz.
שהכרתי מאז שאני מכירה
Names
את
I've
עצמי,
known since I know myself.
מבקשים לעזרה ואף
Asking
אחד
for
לא.
help and no one arrives.
הדבר הכי גרוע
The
בשבילי,
worst thing for me,
חוץ מהמתים
except
והשבויים
for the dead and the hostages,
זה
was
הרגע
the
שבו
moment
יצאתי
I
מהבית
stepped out of my
כשכולם
house
בחושך,
when we were
והייתי
evacuated
יחפה
and it was
ודרכתי
dark
לזכוכית,
and I was barefoot
וראיתי את
stepping on
הפנים של
glass
האנשים מהשכונה
and I
שלי.
saw the faces of my neighbors. Fear.
פחד אלוהים.
God awful
וראיתי
fear.
פנים
And I
שהכרתי
saw
מאז
faces that I've
שאני
known
זוכרת
since
את
I've
עצמי.
known myself
כמו שאף
in
פעם
a
לא ראיתי
way
אותם.
that I'd
תמונות,
never seen them before. Tears,
אנשים שגדלתי
people I
איתם.
grew up with,
פחד.
fear.
וזה להסתובב פה.
And it's also while walking around here, I just made it to the hotel in the Dead
זה
Sea.
להסתובב פה במקום הזה
It's
ולראות
walking
את
around
הפנים של
here
חברי
and seeing the
הקיבוץ שלי
members of my
מנסים
kibbutz
להצליח
trying to
לקום
get up in the
בבוקר,
morning,
להחזיק מעמד,
trying to keep it
לחייך
together,
מדי
to smile once in a while,
כל אחד והדרך
each
שלו.
of them struggling.
וזה לאסוף את עצמי,
And
בוקר.
it's to collect myself every morning.
וזה לא הרבה בקרים, אבל בכל בוקר זאת הייתה משימה
But
מאוד
every
מאוד
morning it's an
קשה.
extremely hard task to collect myself.
מה שקרה לנו היה
What happened to
מזעזע.
us was shocking.
אבל יש משהו שמאוד חשוב לי להגיד.
But there is something important that I want to say.
מה שקרה לנו לא היה
What happened
חדש.
to us was not
פשוט
new,
גרוע יותר.
just worse than before.
מכירים אותנו
We've been
שנים.
abandoned for years.
אל תגידו כיפת ברזל,
Iron
זה
Dome's
פלסטר.
defense system, that's a
אל תגידו
band-aid.
חיילים. זה
Soldiers,
פלסטר.
they're a
זה
band-aid.
פלסטר. בן
A
אדם
person
מתופס,
is
אתם נותנים
dying,
לו
you're bringing them a
פלסטר.
band-aid?
בושה.
Shame.
בושה.
Shame.
שנים אנחנו מדברים
We've been
על זה.
talking about it for
שנים.
years.
מפקירים אותנו.
They're abandoning us.
לכאן זה מגיע.
That's where it
זה לא
comes
היה
from.
חדש, רק
It wasn't
גרוע
new,
יותר.
just worse.
וזה לא הדבר היחיד שהוא לא
And
חדש,
it's not the
אלא רק
only
גרוע
thing
יותר
that's new, but just
במלחמה
worse
הזו.
in this war.
ואני מנסה למצוא את המילים, כי
Bro, what are you doing? Showing Israeli sympathy vids when Gazans are getting flattened? How about you fucking cool your goddamn jets for one moment, okay? First of all, these are people too, and the violence inflicted on them is directly a cause of the violence that the Israeli state has inflicted upon Palestinian people. But you can't even fucking sit there for 3.5 seconds and listen to someone describe their own fucking conditions and how terrified they are without blowing a goddamn gasket. Calm down. I get the tensions are high. But if you think that I'm doing the same thing that the fucking mainstream media does, specifically to just act like you know, Gazans don't exist and to only show the very real pain that people in Israel felt, you're silly. You're a silly bitch. Okay? Let's continue.
בכנות קצת קשה למצוא אותן עם כל הכעס והאבל שיש בתוכי כרגע. איך אני אמורה לקום בבוקר?
How am I supposed to get up in the
אזרחי
morning?
ישראל,
Citizens of
פוליטיקאים,
Israel,
תושבי
politicians,
ישראל,
residents of Israel
חו"ל, לא
overseas.
אכפת לי מי שומע,
I don't care
תקשיבו לי
who's
טוב.
listening, but listen to me carefully.
איך אני אמורה לקום
How
בבוקר
am I supposed to get up in the
ולדעת
morning
ש4.5
and know that
קילומטרים
4.5 kilometers from
בארי.
Kibbutz Be'eri,
בעזה
there
יש
in
אנשים שזה לא
Gaza,
נגמר
there
בשבילם.
are people for whom this isn't over.
בשבילי זה נגמר אחרי
For me,
12
it was
שעות, כי
over
היה לאן
after
להוציא
12
אותי.
hours because there was
אני
some
בים
place to
המלח.
take me. I'm at the Dead Sea.
מי שמדבר על נקמה,
Those of you who want to talk about revenge, shame on
יש
you.
הרבה כאב, זה
There's
נכון.
tremendous pain. That's true.
אחרי כל
Me,
מה שעברתי,
after everything I went through,
כל כך הרבה
I
כוחות
lose
אני
so much
מאבדת
of
בכל
my
פעם שאני
strength
שומעת את
every
המילה
time I
נקמה.
hear the word revenge.
מה שאני עברתי,
What I went
שאנשים
through,
יעברו
for
את זה
others
ולא
to
יהיה
go
מי
through
שיוציא
this,
אותם.
and there won't be anyone to pull them out of it,
אי אפשר כך, אי
it
אפשר
isn't
כך.
possible
לא,
this way.
אי אפשר
It's
עוד
no
פלסטר.
longer
שואלים אותנו
possible.
כל הזמן,
No more
אתם
band-aids.
חושבים
People keep
שתחזרו
on asking
לקיבוץ
us, will you
אחרי
go back
זה?
to the
אתם חושבים
kibbutz
שתחזרו
afterwards?
לגור שם?
Will you go back
בלי
to
עוד
live there?
הגנה, בלי עוד
Without
חיילים,
more
בלי עוד זה?
soldiers, more
אל תגידו לי
defenses?
חיילים, אל
Don't
תגידו
say
לי
soldiers.
תגידו לי פתרון
Don't say
מדיני.
defenses. Say a political
כבר
solution.
שנים אנחנו מבקשים
For
פתרון
years we've been
מדיני.
asking for a political solution.
אני בת 19.
I'm 19 years old.
יש לי חברים
I have friends
שנפלו
who died
בקרב
in battle these past
חיילים
days.
בימים האחרונים, שכשהם היו
When
בגן,
they were
הם
in
ידעו מה הם רוצים
kindergarten,
להיות
they
בצבא.
knew what they wanted to be in the army. Should I raise my children in this way?
בושה.
Shame.
בושה וחרפה.
A shame and a
שאני אגדל את
disgrace.
הילדים שלי ואני אשאל אותם
Should I ask my 5-year-old
תגיד
kids,
חמודי מה אתה רוצה
tell
להיות
me,
בצבא?
cutie, what do you want to be in the army?
כמה אפשר?
How
כמה
much?
אפשר לאבד?
How
כמה
much
אפשר
can one
לספוג?
give? How much can one absorb?
אנחנו, מי שיצא,
We, those who
אנחנו
survived, we
חיה
are a living and
ומהלכת.
walking proof.
ותאמינו לי,
And
מי
believe
ששומע את זה,
me, those who
שאנחנו,
are listening,
זה עוד יכול להיות יותר
it
גרוע.
could
זה
even
יכול
be
להיות.
worse.
מבחינתי,
From my point
זה
of
הדבר
view,
שהכי
and this
חשוב
is
לי
the
להגיד
most
כרגע.
important thing,
וזה ככה כבר
it's been this way for years now.
כשמפציצים אותנו
When we are
בטילים,
bombarded with
בסופו
missiles,
של דבר זה
ultimately
דברים
that
שעוברים
stuff
לנו
goes
מעל
over
הראש.
our heads.
לא הטילים, הטילים
The
לא עוברים
missiles
מעל
don't
הראש,
go
טילים
over
נוחתים
our
יפה
backs.
באדמה,
They land
תאמינו
quite
לי.
nicely on the ground, believe me.
ההחלטה להפציץ בטילים,
The decision to bombard
זה
with
מעל הראש
missiles,
שלי.
that
ביבי,
goes over
חמאס,
my
לא
head.
אכפת לי.
Bibi,
מה
Hamas,
שאני
I don't
יודעת
care.
זה שבארי
What I
סובלת,
know is that Be'eri
סובלת,
suffers, Nahal
כפר
Oz
עזה,
suffers,
שדרות
Kfar Aza,
ועזה.
Sderot, and Gaza.
תאמינו לי שכל קסאם,
Believe me that each Qassam
4.5
rocket,
קילומטר מרחק, האדמה בבארי
4.5 kilometers away from Gaza, from Be'eri to
4.5
Gaza,
קילומטר מרחק, האדמה בבארי
the
ובעזה
ground trembles
רועדת
the
בדיוק
same
אותו
way.
דבר. בדיוק אותו דבר. אי אפשר, אי
That's
אפשר.
not possible. Not possible.
עכשיו, אני יודעת שיש
I
הרבה
know
כעס
there's a
על
lot of
ביבי,
anger at Bibi
כי אני מרגישה אותו.
because I feel it.
אני מרגישה אותו חזק מאוד.
I feel it very
ברגעים שאני
strongly in
מצליחה
moments
להרגיש,
when I'm
כי
able
בזמן
to feel
האחרון זה
because
קצת
it's a
קשה.
bit hard to feel recently.
אני מרגישה אותו.
I
כי
feel it
כמה
because
אנשים-
how many people
כמה אנשים
need
צריכים
to
למות
die for
בשבילו?
him.
כמה אנשים צריכים
for
למות
his
בשביל האגו,
ego,
בשביל
for his
האינטרס?
interests.
אין לי מושג אם כבר
I'm
אמרתי
not
את
sure
זה,
if they've already said this, but
טילים,
missiles, especially in the last attack.
כי אתם יודעים, לפני
Because, you know, before the terrorists arrived, I heard more missiles than I heard throughout my 19 years of life. All at once, all at once. A whole lot. We knew at once it was a war. Before the terrorists, before everything. We are always the first to know, the first to hear. You hear it from where we are.
ואני אגיד לכם שהטילים,
The
מבחינתי,
way
הטילים
I see
שמפציעים
it, the
אותנו,
missiles that
זה
strike
מרגיש כאילו
us,
זה טילים של
it
הממשלה
feels
שלי
as though
שלך.
our government
כי
has
זאת הממשלה
fired them.
שהפקירה אותי.
Because that government has abandoned me
כל שנות חיי.
throughout all my
כל שנות
life.
חיי, ועכשיו מגיע
And
הגרוע
now the
מכל.
worst of all has arrived.
ואם זה לא הגרוע מכל,
And if
אלוהים
this
יודע מה
wasn't,
יהיה.
God knows what will become of us.
עכשיו זה נכון.
Now it's true that Bibi this and Bibi that.
ובאמת,
Truly,
שאני מאשימה אותו,
I blame him 100% for
100%.
everything. This person who witnessed 110 of her closest family members and neighbors has more moral clarity and courage in this very moment when the bodies haven't been even fucking buried yet to directly talk about this. When Americans that are 10,000 miles away are fucking horned up with our endless bloodlust. The entire media in the United States, the media apparatus in the United States is not fucking taking a more reasonable, more tempered approach to what's going on. Think about that. Isn't he Muslim, so biased? Bro, we can read. Oh, you mean me? I'm Muslim, so I'm biased? Really? It's so strange to say this because I mean, I criticize Saudi Arabia pretty fucking endlessly too, despite the media refusing to do so. I love when Americans living in Idaho who are white evangelical Protestants turn around and tell a fucking Jewish Israeli person living in the literal kibbutz where 110 of her closest friends and family members were slaughtered that she is anti-Semitic. The audacity, the gall. It's just so fucking insane to me that you can think that you can do this. It is no different than a fucking German politician telling Bernie Sanders, okay, related to Holocaust survivors, like victims of the fucking Holocaust, direct family members, that he is not allowed to, as an American Jew, make criticisms of the state of Israel, that I, a German Christian, will tell you what's what. How dare you demand a cessation of the violence? How dare you fucking ask to stop this endless bloodshed? The audacity of these fucking animals. Those policemen in France arresting Jewish Voice for Peace activists for the crime of carrying a fucking Palestinian flag. Same in Germany. What the fuck is going on? What are we doing? It's ridiculous, dude.
זה נכון. הוא בחר לתת לנו
He chose to have us live this way. He chose to give us the Iron Dome instead of a political solution. And he chose a great deal of other things as well.
והדם שלנו על
And
הידיים
our
שלו.
blood is on his hands.
אבל זה לא רק הוא.
But it's not just him.
הוא שורש של בעיה עמוקה מאוד, אבל זה לא רק הוא.
He's at the root of a very deep problem, but it's not just him.
אם המילים שלי מגיעות
If
למישהו,
my words reach anyone,
תסתכלו טוב טוב
look
פנימה.
inside very
עמוק
well,
פנימה.
deep inside.
תשאלו את עצמכם מה הערכים
Ask
שלכם.
yourself what your values
תשאלו
are.
את עצמכם
Ask
סביב כל מה
yourself
שאתם רואים.
in relation to everything around you. How are your values related
נוגעים למה
to what
שאתם
you
רואים.
see around?
תשאלו את עצמכם טוב
Ask
טוב.
yourself
תשאלו
very,
את
very
עצמכם למי
well.
אתם מצביעים.
Ask yourself
תשאלו את
whom you
עצמכם
vote
מה אתם
for,
מבקשים ממנו.
what you
אני
demand
יודעת
of
מה אני
them.
מבקשת.
I know what
אני
I'm
מבקשת
demanding.
שלום הוגן.
I'm demanding for a fair
אני מבקשת
peace. I
שהבדואים
demand
בנגב
that the Bedouin in the
יקבלו עזרה כמו
Negev
שקיבוץ
receive the
בארי
same help that my
קיבל עזרה.
Be'eri received. That is incredibly important. This is another part of this conflict that I've only seen myself and maybe a few others talk about as well. The Bedouin they do not have bomb shelters. They live in Israel proper, just like she does inside of the kibbutz, and they never get help. They have never gotten help. There are Arabs that live in Israel proper that do not have access to the same amenities and same level of help that Israeli Jews get, okay? And even then, it's to varying degrees. Even inside of the kibbutzes, even inside of the southern towns, there is a difference of how immediate that action is and how immediate that help is. The Arab Israelis that are not Jewish, that have also historically lived on this land, that have not been displaced, that are a part of the Israeli government, okay, that are supposed to be protected in the same way, are not getting help at all. 40 Bedouins died, okay? They died in the hands of Hamas gunfire, and they died in the rocket fire that was dropped on them. So remember that, okay? Yeah, this is London right now. Even as the UK government threatens to crack down on pro-Palestine activists and protesters, the masses come out in support of Gaza. They're out there because they see an injustice that they cannot look away from, an injustice that is so gross, an injustice that is being funded and facilitated by our dollars, by our money, an injustice that our leaders turn a blind eye to, and in many instances actually directly look at it and champion. It's completely unacceptable. We are stuck inside of such awful echo chambers, specifically in America, especially, where we do not see that. We do not see that there are real people out there who look at this violence and say, enough is enough. We have to put an end to it. I hope that I know that there are people in here right now who have a different opinion than mine, who are in here to troll, who are in here to combat the propaganda and do your bidding, because this is a digital war of information too for you, okay? If you're in here with a differing opinion, I hope that you can possibly engage in a little bit of self-criticism. Have some decency, reflect on your advocacy, and really think about it. Just sit back and think about it. There are victims out there who make a better assessment of the root cause of the violence that they faced when their friends haven't even been buried yet. They are able to demonstrate the moral clarity that you cannot comprehend. Be objective about this, okay? Be objective.
וגם אנחנו לא מספיק, כי אין אזרחים באו לעזור לנו, אזרחים. הממשלה בשום מקום.
The government is nowhere to be seen.
ויש לי הרבה
And I'm very grateful for having a hotel at the Dead Sea. But obviously every person here would forfeit that in exchange for our hostages being released. By the way, I've only twice heard the government make any mention of the existence of the hostages. That's the other part. They are literally purposely fucking acting like no such hostages are inside of Gaza right now, because their bombs are killing those hostages, okay? They want to say like, oh, it's Hamas. It's Hamas. It's Hamas. Yes, Hamas is the one who kidnapped them, okay? Hamas militants are the ones who kidnapped them, thinking that they could fucking negotiate with Israel and thinking that Israel would listen and actually care for their own citizens. Because listen, Palestinians know the Israeli government doesn't treat them as humans. They know that already. But the grave mistake that they made was thinking that the Israeli government would at least care and consider for their own fucking citizens, okay, and their lives, and try to preserve the lives of Israeli citizens. And the mistake they made was that the Israeli government wants to expel Muslims from the region and Arabs and Palestinians from the region more than they want to preserve the safety and security of their own people. And that is the exact same reason as to why she is 100% correct. The Israeli government does not care about the safety and security of its own citizens. If it did, they would look for a path to peace. They hold all the power here. They care more about land grabs and endless expansion and a maintenance of an apartheid state than they do about the safety and security of their own citizens that they supposedly are tasked with defending. An official said today, there won't be any negotiation for the kidnapped to be released with an enemy we want to erase. That is so insane and so far from anything I believe the state believes in. It's heartbreaking. I hope that this is an eye-opening moment for Israeli citizens. I hope that this is an eye-opening moment for those who believe in Zionism being a just cause, okay? It is very difficult to unlearn propaganda that you've been exposed to your whole life. I get it. Okay, it takes a shit ton of reflection, a shit ton of self-reflection. It does. Is Israel bombing hostages? Israel's bombing everywhere, indiscriminately. Bold but accurate and relevant. The Middle East is so complicated, they said, as they scrolled past the 50th post from Palestinians explaining what was happening, refusing to internalize new information because it would force them to confront the reality that the people they trust had lied or misinformed them. Yeah. Let's finish this. They're acting as if they don't exist, the hostages. They're bombing while they know that this bombardment will also cost their lives. Bro, there is no better... Sorry, I know I keep cutting her off, and she's really cooking. But there is no better representation in my mind of what the Israeli government's goals were in that immediate moment when there were still Palestinian forces inside of Israel proper, okay, that had taken over precincts, that had taken over entire towns. And the first move from the IDF and from those who are on top of the IDF, who are, you know, moving units around, their first move wasn't to go and take control over the southern towns. It was to start bombing Gaza. When that happens, how can you sit back and think that these guys actually have any sort of care or consideration for their own citizens? They hit the bomb Gaza button. It's the only button they have at their disposal.
החזרת שבויים. שלום. הגינות והוגנות.
Decency and fairness.
אם אין לכם
If you don't have the ears with which to hear what I just said to you,
אין תקווה.
there's no hope.
תעצרו טוב טוב, תשקלו את
Stop
המילים
right
שלי,
there.
תקשיבו. אולי
Consider my
לחלקכם
words. They might be
הם יהיו
hard for
קשים
some of you to
לשמוע.
hear.
קשות. קשה לי לדבר.
You see, it
רואים?
is
קשה לי
difficult for
לדבר.
me to speak.
אולי לחלקכם
They
המילים
might
האלה
be
יהיו
hard for
קשות
some of you to
לשמוע.
hear.
עם מה שאני
And
עברתי
after what I
בבארי,
went
אתם
through
חייבים
in
לי את זה.
Be'eri, you owe it to me.
אתם חייבים לי את
You
זה.
owe it to me.
לא בקטע של
This isn't
אשמה.
about guilt.
כולנו
We all
עוברים
go through a
הרבה.
lot.
קחו הפסקות. תטפלו בעצמכם, תשמרו על עצמכם,
Take
תשמרו
care
על
of your
המשפחות.
families, protect your families, take a
אבל אתם
break.
חייבים לי את זה.
But you owe it to
תשאלו
me.
את עצמכם למי אתם
Ask
מצביעים.
yourself who
תשאלו
you
מה
vote
אתם
for.
מבקשים ממנו.
Ask yourself what
ואל
you demand
תתפשרו.
from them.
אם
And
אתם
don't
נותנים לתקווה
compromise.
למות,
If
אתם
you
נותנים
allow hope to
לתושבי
die, you
עוטף
are
עזה
allowing the
למות.
citizens
שוב.
of Gaza to die again.
אין לי עוד מה להגיד.
That's it. 19 years old. Everyone that she knows is fucking dead. Okay? They're not even being buried yet. And she has this moral clarity and courage. And it's so sad because it is identical everywhere around the world. It is always the same.